Welcome to Backyard Brothers podcast. I know this is a different voice than what you're normally used to. We are down Scott this week. He is traveling, and so it's just us three, Cody Yancey and I, leading the charge this week. We'll have a little bit of an abbreviated call, about half the time, and mostly focused on March Madness. But first, we're going to start with a memory from Cody, turning back the clock and going to different sport as well. Kick it away.
Yeah, I was gonna say more like a biography than a memory. I busy and just didn't have time to think about it, and so I thought of what, let's just go back in time and think of one of the greats and look what we can find out about them. So, I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about Joe Namath, switching from basketball to football because that's what I know best. And I want to just kind of introduce. I mean, we all know who Joe Namath is. He's currently 81 years old. He's up there now. But he played for the Jets. We all know that he's in the 60s. Um, Number 12 for them. But in talking about him, he was a rookie in 1965, I believe is what it was. Let me double check that. Yeah, five. So he was rookie in five. And I was looking at his stats, and you know what? It's interesting because he's a Hall of Famer. His number has been retired by the Jets. He's in the Ring of Honor. He has all of his accolades of Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, most valuable player, Rookie of the Year, All Pro, four times All Star, so on and so forth. Passing yards leader, comeback player of the year. It goes on and on. Yet, as I look at his stats, his completion percentage is 50.1%. His touchdown to interception ratio was 173 to 220. He threw much more interceptions his career than he ever did touchdowns. And he played well, extremely well in 1968, which is when they won the Super Bowl. He went 11-3. And in 1969 they went 10-4. After that, he didn't play much. He was injured a lot. But when he did play, he was 1-4, 2-1, 7-6, 2-3, 7-7, 3-10, 1-7, 2-2. Nothing ever impressive again. Before that Super Bowl year, he was 3-5-1, 5-6-2, and 8-5-1. So nothing that stuck out. It was 2 years that was impressive. Only 2 years. Um, and we already pointed out the touchdown and interception ratio, and his overall record was 62, 63, and 4. And I wonder what, well, maybe this part be in my discussion about it as well. Obviously we honor that he is the last good quarterback for the Jets. First off,
Yeah.
uh, and he did good for them, right? He won a Super Bowl. He was a good quarterback. But looking at his overall time there, it doesn't make sense why he was a Hall of Famer. It doesn't really make sense why he is regarded as such a great, a retired, all that. Maybe it's because the Jets have missed him so much after all these years. I don't know, but that's part of the discussion. Why is it with this record, with this I guess just look for him, which doesn't look great, other than all these accolades, why is he regarded as, one of the greatest of that time, one of the greatest Jets? Why is he in the Hall of Fame? Let's go there.
So I'll lead this off, and I'm kind of glad that you chose this topic. So I don't know, not too long ago, a few weeks ago, up with baby YouTube scrolling, I went across a video of a basically NFL historian podcast, just a 25-minute video about Joe Namath specifically. And so I'm glad you brought this up because he spelled it out. And like the truth is that Joe Namath was an absolutely horrible, crappy quarterback. He did not belong in the NFL. He was a bad quarterback. The reason he is in the Hall of Fame is because of Super Bowl III.
The guarantee, right?
Say that again?
The guarantee?
Yeah, there's that he guaranteed that we're going to win the Super Bowl. And then they had this playoff run that got there, and they met the Baltimore Colts, who were by far the best team in the NFL that season. Nobody nobody expected the Jets to have a chance. And Namath had a great game. He went 17 of 28. He didn't throw a touchdown. He also didn't throw an interception, but he maintained the offense and got them scoring multiple times and won Super Bowl III. And because that was so unexpected and because of his Broadway personality in that way, he got himself into the Hall of Fame. But make absolutely no mistakes, he was not a good quarterback. Cody, you said that he's the, best quarterback the Jets have ever had. While that may be true, this man was not a good football player. He had his guarantee and he won Super Bowl III, and that's what got him into the Hall of Fame. And that's really about it. So I don't want to discredit how hard it is to be an NFL football player, even back in the 1960s. But Joe Namath is popular because it's a good name to say, because he had a good nickname, and because, yes, he won a Super Bowl. Any quarterback that wins a Super Bowl is worthy of remembering.
Yeah, I think I agree with everybody's overall premise and view of Joe Namath. I've never been really a big fan myself. Didn't care about the Jets, and so the guarantee was the only thing that stuck out in my mind whenever we were mentioning things that he had done. And I don't believe that would get. I don't think it gets you into the Hall of Fame. I don't think that that's an accolade. That's just saying you're going to do something and doing it. Isn't that just accountability and hey, I've trained hard enough to win this game. I expect to. It was just that he was cocky and brash, and usually you want to see those guys fail so bad that when they do, you just have to shut up and deal with it, that they didn't fail. You know what I mean? And so I think that's part of it, is wanting him to fail so bad, but he didn't, so you have to give him his credit where it's due. But I think we overdid that as a fan base in general for Joe Namath's talent, and that's what I think created this conversation. And I don't disagree with you, Cody. I think most of the points you made were completely valid. His numbers don't add up to Hall of Fame success, especially if you have a different name or a different team. But let's also keep into account that he's playing with a bunch of drunk cokeheads and riding buses still. The 60s was an interesting time. There were guys in baseball on LSD breaking records too. So it's a funky time in general in sports. And so I think if we analyze that decade in sports specifically, you'll find a lot of underachievers that slid through without numbers, to be honest. And I think that's a partial explanation of a broader topic that I don't want to take up all the time of the conversation to get into that. But I think that's part of it, is he wasn't surrounded by athletes. He did something pretty special, winning a Super Bowl, saying he was going to do it and guaranteeing it, which wasn't really done in that day. But it was part of the counterculture. So that's probably why we remember him so much, but I don't think that he deserved it. So I agree with Dustin on that part, and I agree with you overall, I think.
I think that's everything I have with it. I was, I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up. And in almost any documentary you see about NFL quarterbacks, you'll see Joe Namath named, or you'll see how he was named with among of all the greats. And I was looking at him like, what was great about him? He won a Super Bowl. That's good. That's good. But he also won it in 1968 when, where it's really not football like it is today. So it was just a discussion I thought I'd bring up. So good discussion.
Yeah, I think about when the Colts in 2006 played the Bears in the Super Bowl, right? And so the Bears, who their quarterback, Rex Grossman, if the Bears had won that Super Bowl, we'd be talking about Rex Grossman beat Peyton Manning to win the Super Bowl. That's what we'd be talking about. He'd be Joe Namath level, Rex Grossman, yeah. Where do the Bears haven't had a quarterback since Rex Grossman? That's what we say.
That's a good point. And I think that's a good team to use and a good year to use to compare them.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. We let's talk a little bit about boxing. We lost a legend this past week in George Foreman. Yancey, you want to take us down that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to read a little bit of the Wikipedia because I wasn't always a huge fan of George Foreman. He was more of a God-gifted talent of power guy than a skill guy. In my early study of boxing, I liked super technical guys. That's not to say that George was a sloppy fighter, but his stance was called the mummy. And so he kind of, and I'm dead serious, he just kind of plots towards you, boom, and puts deadly shots on you. But he wasn't the most technical. So if you wanted to learn how to box in a very technical fashion, this isn't a guy that you would necessarily want to learn from, but that's not to take any credit away from what he did overall in boxing. He was a two-time world heavyweight boxing champion. He was an Olympian. He got Olympic gold in, let's see, I'm sorry, 68, and defeated Jonas Cephalus in the second round. Man, I hope that's an unfortunate name. But George was a super talented boxer. Not to say that he had an ego, but his children's names were Frida Foreman, George Foreman III, Georgetta Foreman, George Foreman IV, and more. So most of his kids shared the name of George. Which is just a funny thing to me. Junior is interesting, but to go so far as to make your daughter's name Georgetta, just so she's not messing it up. Look, I've been punched a lot. It's hard to remember all these children's names, if I'm going to be honest with you. So I just call them George 1 through George 5, and I assume that George 5 is the old-looking one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anywhere close to the amount of self-respect to name a child after myself. That's not me.
But to name a grill and 4 kids, that's
Red out of kid started inventing things.
You know what I'm saying? Good for him though.
Good. Anything else?
Cody, do you got any thoughts you wanted to add to it?
I mean, the only thing I know about George Foreman, and this may be off, is, I mean, didn't they name a grill after him?
Well, he invented, patented, and sold that grill.
Okay, all right. I know the George Foreman grill, so.
Like the rights to his kids' names, you got to pay $250 to name your kid George anymore. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, other than that, I mean, I knew he was a boxer. I didn't know if he was any good. I didn't know if you know, I guess what to expect or anything. I didn't even know how old he was, so it kind of shocked me that he was, he had died. So that's all I have to say. Nothing really intellectual.
Let's see. Let me read off his record because I wasn't doing credit. He was 76-5 with 68 knockouts, which is
wow.
I don't know how to explain how impressive. If he touches you, you go to sleep. If he really touches you, you die. Like you don't wake up. And it was just he was one of it's talent over skill things. So that's just my opinion. There's someone who I'm sure understands boxing better than I do that could explain it in a way that would make me sound stupid. But just my opinion of it. If you watch his knockouts, you'll see what I see. I believe he just kind of walks towards you until his arms can reach you, and then he puts one on you, and then you kind of start to stumble until you're not standing anymore.
It's a better knockout ratio than cyanide.
That's great. You know what I think? Dangerous man.
Yeah.
NyQuil in them hands. You know what I mean? Ambien in the other.
Yeah. That's an extremely impressive record that, so rarely did the judges have to get together and choose a winner. It was always obvious so often. And so that's really impressive. And Cody, like you, he's very well remembered for creating the thing that burned Michael Scott's foot. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
A quick fact. So back in the day of boxing, before we had rounds and the Queensberry rules took effect, you would fight until a guy could no longer fight. So records used to be insane. Like Rocky Marciano was like had over 100 and something fights with a crazy amount of knockouts. You go back to Jack Johnson, and he would fight guys for like 47 minutes, like crazy stuff. And it wasn't until I wish I could remember the date so I don't sound stupid, but it took a while before we were like, hey, these guys are punching each other to death. Maybe we should put some rules in there. And a lot of people think that about MMA, but that was far more true about boxing for a lot longer time. And I just wanted to point that out real quick. But 68-5 is crazy. And that's just his knockouts. So to only lose 5 times when you've fought close to 80 is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's good. All right, let's talk about March Madness. We can look at the official bracket and talk about some of these games and some of the different picks that we had on them, and kind of tally up our record here. So let's see.
Really fast, just while you're pulling that up, I just have to say, I'm watching this Alabama BYU game, and they just traded off a total of 7 threes in a row. Alabama, BYU, Alabama, BYU, Alabama, and then Alabama just kept going. Alabama's made 4 or 5 in a row now. It's insane. They're gonna well surpass 100 in this game. They're already at 95 with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, it's incredible how many 3-pointers Alabama has made. You know, that's kind of been BYU's methodology, is to shoot the team out of the game, you know, with so many threes. And Alabama said, well, we're just going to come and do it better than you. Yeah, I've made 25 threes or something like that this game.
What's the score, if you don't mind? I don't have it on right now.
97 to 76
Yep.
with 7 minutes left.
And BYU is down, I'm assuming?
Yeah, down by 21.
Yeah. I didn't think they had a chance in this game, but I didn't think it'd be this bad.
Yeah. All right, can you see the bracket here?
I can, but scroll down just a hair to fit the rest of the teams in there.
Yeah, it gets big, so we're just gonna have to look at everything here.
Gotcha.
So, kind of just going a little bit at a time. We don't have to talk about each game, but you know, we can call out a few. We'll work on our left side here. Auburn beat Alabama State. Creighton beat Louisville, which was surprising for a lot of us, I thought. Michigan had a very tough time against UC San Diego, but again, eventually was able to pull out that win. That was an exciting game to watch. And so coming in on that, UC San Diego almost had that before Michigan was able to pull away in the final seconds. North Carolina was an 11 seed. They did not have a very good season, and so them falling to Ole Miss was expected. Iowa State, a lot of people kind of counted them out, but here they beat Lipscomb by almost 30. New Mexico here in this upset here, and then Michigan State. So on to the other side over here, Duke beat Mount St. Mary's, almost doubled them up in points, you know, beating them by 44 points. Crazy there. Let's see here. Anything else to call out? Again, some big blowouts on this side. Oregon beating Liberty by 30. Arizona beating Akron by 30.
Ooh.
Yeah, so some big ones there. St. Mary's barely getting past Vanderbilt. That was again an exciting one to watch, at least from the Vanderbilt side. And Robert Morris gave Alabama a run. There was a time where Robert Morris had the lead with about 10 minutes left. And so looking at what Alabama's doing now and what they've done since, you know, hats off to Robert Morris. And in the second round, and we'll just go backwards here. BYU and Wisconsin, that 2-point game there. It was never as close as the final 2 points there. BYU had about a 10-point lead for most of the game, and Wisconsin closed it in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, super exciting game at the end though there.
Yes, it was. Arizona beat Oregon in a shootout, and they'll play later tonight. Duke and Arizona play, in about an hour. Over on this other side, Auburn beat Creighton. It was never close. Michigan beat A&M, which was surprising given what they had trouble against San Diego, but they did great there. Ole Miss beat Iowa State, and Michigan State beat New Mexico. And so these 2 games will play tomorrow. Down on this other side, Florida beating Norfolk State. UConn beating Oklahoma. Oklahoma really struggled there. They're a team. They're a nice team. May not have necessarily deserved to be there. Colorado State handled Memphis. That was a good, surprising upset right here. 12 beating of 5. Memphis had a fantastic year. They're coached by Penny Hardaway, and Colorado State just beat them up. Maryland destroyed Grand Canyon. Drake took down Missouri. Missouri forgot what sport to play. And then this Kansas and Arkansas game was very exciting, with Arkansas being able to control it mostly through defense. They had like 12 blocks in that game or something like that.
Arkansas playing surprising.
Yeah, them as a 10 seed, having 2 upsets, taking out St. John's here in order to advance. Arkansas is in a very interesting situation because they have Calipari as their coach, who's fantastic coach, won multiple national championships. He came in and completely flipped the roster. He got rid of everybody except for like 1 or 2 players and brought in new guys. And then they had a pretty rough start to the season. Were able to climb back in order to get this 10 seed, and now they're on a roll. So they'll play Texas Tech tonight. Colorado State and Maryland, that was a nail-biter there, with Colorado State leading for most of the game and Maryland having a buzzer beater to win the game, which is super exciting, the 3-pointer at the end. Over on the other side, Houston beat SIU Edwardsville by 40 points.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's got to hurt to be like a 16 seed. You go up against an absolute juggernaut, and like you just feel like, Daddy, can we get ice cream after? Like it's just like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Winning's not everything, guys. We'll try again next year.
McNeese took down Clemson. This was such an interesting game because McNeese just absolutely punched them in the jaw to start this game. And I remember, Cody, you texting where the halftime score was like 40-13. It was big. It was just a punch to the jaw by McNeese. And then Clemson scored 54 points in the second half to almost win it.
Which would have been a huge embarrassment if that was, for me. So that would have been awful. But I cannot believe that you had only scored 13 points. I think that might be the worst half by any team ever, honestly. I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's embarrassing even though they won. Who cares? You allowed that to happen. If I'm the coach, I'm cussing you up and down. Everybody is going to hear from me, bro. Like, unacceptable. That's insane. Sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, but how many points again? Say again? And a half?
We're 54 points in the second half. 54 over 13.
And 54-13? Unacceptable, dude. I'm going to let the towel boy play. What do you mean?
So really quick, with this BYU Alabama game going on, I just got an ESPN notification. that Alabama has now set the record of number threes made in a game, tournament game, with 22, and there's still 5.5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
This is insane.
And it's not necessarily that BYU's playing bad defense, although that's not great. It's that they're just shots are just falling. I mean, it is just the rhythm is strong for these Alabama players. They got it going.
Yeah. If they can do this through the tournament, it's gonna be hard for anyone to beat them, honestly.
Yeah. So anyway, McNeese, they went into the next round and continue to play the way they did in the second half there and got stomped by Purdue. Illinois beat Xavier. Kentucky beat Troy. UCLA got embarrassed by UCLA. That was only scored 47 points in the whole game. That's embarrassing.
Mm.
And then in the second round, Tennessee beat UCLA. Pretty handedly there I guess it's by 9. And so Tennessee and Kentucky will play tomorrow. That's a good old-fashioned basketball matchup. Two schools that have been good at basketball for 50 years going up against each other.
Cousin kissing rivalry. Are you allowed to call it that?
I don't know what you're allowed to say, but go ahead.
America.
And then Houston and Purdue will also play. And so that's Houston's another team, which I don't know. I don't know who can stop them. They had a close one to Gonzaga, but they were in charge of that game for most of it. Okay. Any other comments about kind of March Madness and where we are so far?
Do we want to maybe
Florida,
talk? Oh, sorry.
Florida's up 10 against Maryland right now with a little less than 10 minutes left.
I was just going to say, do we want to talk about what we can expect from the matchups we have right now?
Yeah, let's talk that.
So definitely Bama's going to finish this out.
Yeah, there's no way, no hope for BYU to do anything.
Yep. So here's scores, right? Alabama's up by 20 with 3 minutes left. That one's going to be done. Florida up by 10 with 8 minutes left.
Not over, but still not a great chance of Maryland making the comeback there.
Arizona and Duke will play in a little less than an hour.
And Arizona's not really been the Arizona they usually are this season, right? So they're a little bit underperforming this season, I think. So it should be, I think it could be expected to be a Duke win by probably 12 or 15 points.
Is that 33-3?
Yeah.
Is that their record?
Yeah.
Duke? Woo, boy, don't want to see them in a bracket.
No.
Yikes.
So yeah, they're Duke is kind of the favorite to win it all, and I think majority of brackets. I think like close to 25% of every bracket had Duke winning it. So I mean, they're the favorite for sure. Even though they're not the number one overall, they're number 2. But yeah, this is going to be a good game, especially if you like good basketball. I expect Duke to, I would say Duke by 15.
And I think that's a defensive because of defense more than offense, or do you disagree with that?
They're good at both, but
right.
They're more. I mean, they're good at both, but I would say more offense. That Duke's gonna be able to put up 95 points, and it's so hard for any team to be able to compete with that. I mean, you look at what Alabama's doing. Again, back to that. It's hard to put up so many points.
True.
And then Arkansas and Texas Tech play later this evening as well.
And for the sake of brackets, all 4 of my brackets, I need Texas Tech to win that, but I would really like to see Arkansas win that. That'd be pretty fun.
I think that's the best chance for an upset in all these games that I see, but I don't really like their chances, to be honest. I think Texas Tech might show up in this.
They very well could, but I think that's also what people said when they played St. John's. So
Fair
Yeah.
play. Fair play.
Arkansas is a defensive team, and so it's the first one to 70 wins. That's what it's going to be. First team to score 70 wins, and that's what I think. For tomorrow, we got Ole Miss and Michigan State. Michigan State 29-6. They're a great team. Kentucky and Tennessee. There's your kissing cousins rivalry. Michigan and Auburn. Auburn's a good team, but they haven't looked so great this tournament. They've been winning their games, but not with the flair that you'd expect from a number one. And then Purdue and Houston, which I don't know. I think of Purdue as just I don't know where they belong. I don't see how 24-11 gets you to a 4 seed. And how they've gotten to where they are, and so I would expect Houston to win by pretty handily by double digits.
Yeah, I was gonna say Houston will flesh that out for us and tell us where they belong here in a minute.
now, do any of you, just for fun, but do any of you have a team that you are like your team right now that you actually are rooting for to go and win it all? For me, it's obviously Kentucky.
Same.
BYU, and I've always liked Duke, but BYU's been more of the team that I was really hoping to get past Alabama. All right, stopping the share, getting back over here. So between us and our brackets that we filled out, and so looking at what I got here in the app, Cody, you have your bracket, and I think it's your main bracket. You got Houston winning it all. You are currently in first place in our thing with 52 points. Let's see. And then Yancey, you are in second place there. In our official things, you have in Kentucky winning it all, but you're 9 points behind Cody. You got 43 points, and you only have 104 possible. And so that you may eventually start to drop down as more games happen.
Gotcha.
And then me in third place with 40 points. I also only have 104 points remaining, and so I'm also not going to climb up too much here. So Cody, your lead is looking fairly safe out of our three official. And then Scott is way down with 39 points. But he has some opportunity to catch up since he has 112 points remaining possible. And so we'll kind of see how the rest of this shakes up, but it's currently 52 to 43 to 40 to 39. And so Cody, you have a pretty significant lead between the four of us. Yeah. That's all I have for March Madness and for basketball in general this week. Any other last call outs before we close the abbreviated podcast?
Not in regards to basketball. If I remember right, on the agenda, we might do some football free agent signings and stuff like that. If we want to do a little bit of time with that, I can.
Yeah, let's start doing that. Let's talk about some of the news that have happened in football.
Okay, yeah, just a little bit. Perhaps one of the bigger ones, at least recently, is that Russell Wilson did sign with the team. He went to the Giants, signing with the Giants on I think it's a 1 or 2 year deal, 21 million with 10 million guaranteed, something like that. So, which is interesting because he goes to the Giants, and I mean, if you're a player, it doesn't matter what you want to do. It doesn't matter where you go, you want to win, right? And so he chose the Giants, but I don't think you're going to win there. So.
Right. And you got the young stud coming in for the first draft pick, right? Or second? Do they have first or second?
Yeah, it's no, the Browns have, I think it's actually fourth pick. I think they have the fourth.
Oh, really? Really?
The
I thought they
Titans
were higher up.
Titans have the first, Browns have the second, Patriots are third, and then it's the Giants at fourth. But yeah, they have a top 5 pick. So
Gotcha.
Stephon Diggs did a really weird thing and signed with the Patriots. He's not going to win there either. So, but he did a 3-year deal with them worth $70 million or $69 million, 26 of that guaranteed. So that was interesting. I don't know why he went there. I think he had left the Bills because he wanted to be on a team that was competing for the Super Bowl, which is funny that he left them. But he went to the Texans. They didn't work out, so now he goes to the Patriots. That doesn't make any sense. Let's see here. It's not known, but it's expected that Aaron Rodgers might be signing with the Steelers. But it's not official or anything. It's kind of rumors still right now, but he's been meeting with him a lot.
Yeah, Steelers don't have a quarterback because where did Fields go?
Fields, good question. Where did he go? He went to. Let's see if I can find it. That's a question. Hold on a second. Yeah, he went. Maybe to the? Did he go to the Browns? I don't think so. That doesn't right. Oh, he went to the Jets. That's right. Justin Fields went to the Jets. So, and then I don't think we talked about this last time, but Cooper Kupp signed with the Seahawks, which is I think what a lot of Seahawk fans were kind of expecting was going to happen. It's as a Seahawk fan, it makes a lot of sense business wise as a GM because they release or they trade away DK Metcalf, they release Tyler Lockett, they send away Geno Smith, they get Sam Darnold in there, and they get Cooper Kupp and Marquez Valdes-Scantling and a couple others, with an additional two picks and $5 million. So it's not. I mean, Cooper Kupp is not Metcalf, right? He was a Super Bowl MVP, but he's also on the downhill climb, I guess you could say. But he's still probably better than half of the receivers in the league. So I think as far as business wise, it was a good decision by the Seahawks. Other than that, though, there's nothing else that's been big. I know that the Titans have been holding extra workouts with Cam Ward, so people are thinking that he's going to be the first overall pick with the Titans, which would make sense. So other than that, though, I don't know if there was anything else that was a big screaming thing.
Aaron Rodgers should just finish being Brett Favre's shadow by going to Minnesota and then robbing Mississippi's children of a bunch of money. Sorry, that last part slipped out. But then it'd be perfect. He would he would finish the storyline.
Yes,
That should happen.
About that, the Vikings have pulled themselves out of the race for Aaron Rodgers. So it's officially that he won't be going there. That's at least what they said. We could see a report in 2 weeks saying no, he changed his mind. But
he could still scam Mississippi at any time he wants. So
that'll be
that's never off the table.
Those kids are gullible.
Oh man,
he'll just take them he'll take them all to a dark retreat room or something.
Oh man.
I'm go drink spider venom or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Spider venom. Oh man, that's a good one.
All right. Good. All right. Abbreviated podcast this time. We'll catch up again next week. We'll probably have another abbreviated podcast catching up on March Madness and prepping for Final Four. We're starting baseball now. I think baseball starts this week. So we may talk a little bit about that and anything else that we start to work towards, especially with what NFL draft is like the 25th of April or something like that.
Somewhere on there, 25th, 27th, something like that.
Terrible at calendars.
Yeah, we'll do some type of prep going into that.
And we'll probably get my father-in-law Bob Taylor to help us with baseball since his expertise.
Yeah. Good.
Sweet.
All right, we'll catch up and watch some more basketball this weekend and have more to talk about. next week. Until then, see ya.
All right.